What's up, producers? It's Matt from Music Producer School. I think I cut my audio there from the intro a little quick. Sorry about that. So we're going to get started today. We are continuing our Let's Make a Song series. I'm here in my home studio. You can see over my shoulder here, I have my puppy, Mr. Bruiser, in the house with us today. And we're going to be continuing this series of Let's Make a Song. So the last week we spent most of the time editing the vocals for this song. And we're going to do a little bit more fun, kind of some experimenting today. And I guess I'll start the lesson off by saying, it's good to balance, whenever you're a producer and you're making songs, it's always a balance of the creative versus the administrative. And that basically just means you're going to have days where you need to do some not so fun stuff to get it done. And then other days are going to be more, fun and kind of playing around and actually playing music or putting together music, something in that sense. So let's go ahead and jump in here into our song. And as always, we're just going to take a listen and see where we left off here. I'm going to go ahead and first thing, do my file save live set as. This is going to be 13.1 because this is the 13th session. Now, normally, I would sit for probably more than a half an hour at a time working on stuff like this. But because, I'm trying to keep these short and sweet for everybody, I'm just breaking it down into multiple sessions. But we are up to 13. What's up, Lathini and Bri or Bree? I see y'all. What's up? Miss Pitbull. Hey, I might look like Pitbull, but I don't have Pitbull's bank account yet. But hang on to that thought. All right, so let's get into this thing. Let's see what we got so far.
One more day. Feels like you threw my heart away. One more chance. Let a good love slip through your hands. Stand inside when the tears start coming, falling down like rain. It's like a sickness, you broke me with a quickness, a brand new kind of pain. And all I can do is dance. All I can do is
All right, cool. So with some fresh ears, what I'm hearing is that when we put this little Alter Boy plugin on the vocal to do this Formant down effect, which is pretty popular in house music such as this, I'm noticing that we're losing a little bit of our top end. So I'm going to go ahead and boost that up a little bit more on this Pultec. We'll widen up the bands. And whenever I'm boosting, I like to go pretty broad, so we'll just put it all the way open on the broadness. And let's check that and see what it sounds like.
Brand new kind of pain. And all I can do is dance. All I can do is dance. All I can do is dance.
Yeah, I'm digging that. And then the only other thing I think is let's maybe try in on this saturator. Let's give it, we're at 1.7. Let's give it 2. And then let's change the frequency that we're going to saturate around a little bit higher, so it's going to help it kind of more sparkle. I like to think of it in the top end. Let's see what that sounds like.
And all I can do is all I can do is dance. All I can do is all I can do is dance. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm liking that. Now, the other thing I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a limiter on the end of this whole chain. And I'm doing it before the reverb and the delay because I'm probably going to wind up splitting the reverb and delay off to some return channels. So that way I can send some of the other instruments into these. But I'm just kind of still in the process of figuring out exactly which reverb stuff I want to use. So I'm just kind of keeping them on the vocal at the moment. So let's see with a little bit of limiting what we've got going here.
Broke me with the quickness of brand new kind of pain. And all I can do is dance. All I can do is dance. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, sweet. I'm liking that. Okay, so now, like I said, today, you know, we've done this administrative. We went through, we did all of our vocal comping with all the different takes. We did the timing issues. We did the auto-tune stuff where we tuned them up by hand. So again, if you missed any of that, refer back to one of the previous videos. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to experiment a little bit today and have a little bit of fun. So I'm actually going to duplicate this track just so we don't screw anything up. But again, the cool way about doing it the way that I have this set up, the vocals are all going into this vocal bus. So this vocal bus basically just holds all of my effects, right? But it allows me to manipulate any of these vocal tracks without having to constantly keep copying and pasting effects back and forth through different tracks. So what I'm going to be able to do now with this is I'm going to consolidate this whole track right here. Let me also switch these to the Complex Pro algorithm. And that'll probably sound a little bit better for our vocal stuff. So what I'm going to do now is on this track that we just copied, I'm going to consolidate all of this audio here. And I really don't have to do that. I believe I can actually do it without consolidating. Let's see. Like I said, I just switched to Ableton 10, so some of the stuff has changed a little bit. But what I'm attempting to do here is take all this audio and just drag it right onto this MIDI track. Alright, it didn't like that because I'm just dragging all these pieces, so it created a new one. So let me try doing this instead. I'm going to drag all of it onto this MIDI channel down here. Okay, no, it doesn't like that. So I do have to consolidate, which is what I thought in the beginning. So I'm going to consolidate this into one piece of audio. And then when I bring this down to this MIDI track, I'm going to drop it on the MIDI track down here, and it's going to pull it into a sampler, or a simpler, I think is the one, this one, that Ableton calls it. So what I'm going to do here is put it on slice mode. And what slice mode does is it basically looks at all the transients of these things, and it essentially puts it on a keyboard for me. Now the key again though is I want to make sure I'm sending this out to my lead vocal bus, right? So that I can get all those same effects. So now I have all those same effects going to this simpler device, which is chopping up all these vocals. Now the sensitivity is at 100%. I probably don't need that much. I could probably back it off to where we get some little bit longer phrases. Let's try backing it off to something like about 75. Okay, so we have kind of like almost like a drum rack now of all these vocals. I hope y'all are following this because this is pretty where it gets kind of fun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an audio track under this. And I'm gonna have the input of this track go into this channel down here. So this is, I'm gonna call this, let's call this vocal drum rack, or let's call this actually vocal chops is what I like to call it. And I'll even put MIDI so that way we know what it is, and then we'll just call this vocal chops audio. All right. So I have this track armed now, right? So this is our drop. So the idea is this. We're going to create a MIDI track here. And I'm going to find where my vocals are in here. So from here, and everyone that has a sample on it, and I'm essentially just going to put notes in all of these. All right, so it ends on the F3, and I have notes from starting from C#1. So now when I fold, I hit the fold on here, it's only going to show me the notes that actually exist on the sampler because I just placed them. So I'm going to peel this back a little bit. And I'm going to consolidate this clip. And now what I can do is I can take all these notes and I'm going to move them back there. And I'm going to actually start my clip here. So it's a little shorter, but it still allows me to fold these notes. This is kind of an Ableton specific thing. It's just a little trick where essentially instead of me having all 127 MIDI notes, I just found the actual notes that contain samples, so I can hit this fold key and it folds it down to only the notes that I want to see which have samples on them. And then I'm just shortening my MIDI clip up so that way when I go put stuff in here, it's not going to be just randomly guessing, you know, notes that don't have any samples on them. So I'm going to just put in a note. Let's try here. And I'm going to loop that. So let's listen to this first. All right, nothing that cool, obviously, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and find this random... Oh, you want to come produce, Bruiser? Come see. You guys and girls, my buddy Bruiser here. He wants to come produce with us today. Y'all say hello to Bruiser. It's my little sidekick. He wants to get in the studio action today, so he's going to come help us out. So I'm going to put this randomizer on the MIDI track. And I'm going to turn the choices all the way up. And I'm going to turn the chance all the way up. And let's just see what that does first. Alright, so I hope this is starting to make a little more sense to you guys now. So, with that in there, now what I can do is I can actually start shortening up this loop because I just looped the same note here the whole way through. So let's try and maybe shorten our loop up to something like that. And let's see what we get. And I'm going to start hitting record on this because as we do this, I want to capture some of these randomized events. So that's why I armed this vocal audio track, and I'm going to start capturing some of this. And what we're going to do is when I start recording, I'm going to start playing with this random chance and choice stuff. And we're going to see if we can get some interesting things going here. Alright, so that was cool, but not exactly what I wanted, because I think what we want to do is get it all the way down to a quarter note. So let's try that, and we'll have some different stuff happening for each quarter note. Alright, that was cool. So let's try one more thing now. I'm going to actually loop this whole section now, and we're just going to start getting a whole bunch of takes that we can kind of do some things with. So the other thing that's going to help out with this whole process is I'm going to start messing with the sensitivity here while it's actually recording this audio in, and that's where we're going to start getting some random kind of glitchy type things. So let's do that now. Okay, so just from doing that one quick little random sequence, I'm going to play this back now because this is the beauty of doing this process. It's hard, especially if you're working by yourself. You know, if you're working with someone, that's the beauty of collaboration, which I always, if I can choose to collaborate, I prefer, because just that influx of a different perspective from someone else that you're working with, whether it be another producer, another artist, whatever it may be, that is kind of where a lot of these ideas get generated. So what I'm teaching you today is kind of how to do this process where you're going to almost create a collaborator from this random way we're doing this thing to give you clues on what you should do next for the song, right? So I heard some things in here randomly that I kind of like. So let's take a listen, because I want to try and roll with those and see if we could do something with them. So we're just going to listen back to what we recorded. And we need to be sure to send this to our lead vocal bus to hear those effects. Okay, so what I heard that I really liked was this yeah, yeah idea. That yeah, yeah right there is going to be something I think important for what we're going to try and do. So again, I'm going to duplicate this track. I'm going to get rid of all this audio, but that just duplicates the bus stuff and all that, so I don't have to do it over again. So that yeah, yeah I really like. So for example, we can maybe do all I can, yeah, yeah. So the yeah, yeah is going to be on our 3-4 beats 3 and 4. So it'd be kind of a repeating motif here. So we'll take all this and just throw it up here. So that do is yeah, yeah. So maybe if we did do. So what if, let's find an all. So we could take the all. So that right there, the all do. I can. So all, so what I'm trying to do here is recreate the vocal without him just, or me rather, since I was singing this, just strictly saying the same exact thing over and over again. And we might be building this part for another piece in the arrangement, but this is how you kind of generate some of these ideas. That was kind of cool, actually. I want to check it. Yeah, see, like a little cool rhythmic thing like that. And we can actually increase the volume of these as well. Working with one hand here. I got my accomplice in the studio with me today. So let's take a listen to this now. So that's starting to sound kind of cool. This do is at the end here, and then let's keep this right here. And you don't have to think too hard about this. Yeah, and we'd kind of finish off on that do is dance on the end of the phrase there. So this is just the first iteration of this that I've done. And you can see, I mean, this wasn't anything like super, difficult to do. I'm basically just kind of experimenting, playing around with it, and, you know, just seeing where it takes me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Vocal Chops 1, and that was pretty cool. And now we're going to do one more iteration of it. So I have this second channel here already set up to go. Vocal Chops 2. And then let's see if we can experiment with the MIDI a little bit more here and get something else going on with it. So let's do this time. Let's actually bring this loop out to a whole bar. So we're on a 1 bar loop now, right? I'm sorry, we're on a half a bar loop. So let's bring it out all the way to a 1 bar loop. All right, there's our 1 bar loop, and you can see down here, there's my note. And because I have this random plugin on here again, the randomizer plugin, it's going to give me something different each time. So let's bring our sensitivity back up so we get a few more chops in there. And then let's just kind of randomly throw, I'm going to turn off the speaker there so we can just kind of randomly throw, because another thing is we're triggering notes on the downbeats. Even though they're random notes, the way we had it set up last time, we were just always triggering stuff on downbeats. So now that we've got another iteration going here, let's try and do some upbeat stuff. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are my upbeats right here. So let's try and get one on an upbeat, and let's try and get another one on an upbeat over here. And it doesn't really matter which notes I pick here. Yeah, and let's try and actually get a little bit more of a rhythmic thing going here for this one. So let's do this. Now that I've created that loop, let's do a 4 bar section here, and I'm going to consolidate this so we can see all of our notes, right? Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of almost create like a rhythm here. And again, it doesn't really matter which notes I'm picking here because they're all going to be random, but watch how this works now. That was probably a little bit too much, but another little thing for my Ableton users out there, if you change this from trigger, right now it's just triggering 1 note at a time, and it's going to play the whole part of that sample. If I put the gate on, the gate is only going to allow the notes to play for the length of these notes. So listen to the difference now. So it sounds like these are a little too close. So let's try and spread these out. It's just a little bit too much. It's not really liking the way that that's working. So let's spread these out a little bit. So let's try just looping this section right here and see what we get. Yeah, it's not liking those short chops so much. So let's just pop those out, and let's try and back it off a little bit and maybe give a little bit longer note here, and this will be just more of an accent up here. And then let's try, since we already did downbeats, again, I'm just thinking, okay, what did we do already? We did a bunch of downbeats. So let's try and do some more upbeat stuff here. Let me just get rid of that note right there. So yeah, I think that's cool. Let's do that. And again, all of this is going to be random, so we never know what we're going to get. So I'm going to do the same thing. I just armed my track, and let's go ahead and record this in and see, you know, maybe it'll give us something cool. Yeah, so you can see how now that we started operating on the upbeats there, it's starting to get a little more funky. And again, house music like this is typically kind of, the vibe is created on the upbeats. So once we start doing that, and again, all I'm thinking is, okay, we did this randomizer thing on the downbeats the first pass. What can we change? Well, we did downbeats, now let's do upbeats. So when we do that, we get this nice kind of up vibe type of thing, where we now have all this material that we can work with, these two different tracks right here of things that we can go through, chop up even more if we want, or these are just kind of the extra little things that a lot of your favorite producers are adding in, that it's very daunting in the beginning, especially if you're a beginner producer or early on in your career. It seems very daunting. Like if you really listen close to a lot of your favorite producers' tracks, you're going to hear a lot of these random things. And I used to wonder this. I'm like, man, I hear all these random sounds, but it all sounds like it goes together. And the secret to that is they're creating their own sounds from the original material. So it's not just a random sample pack. I mean, sometimes, you know, we all find samples that we like, but if you can create a vocal like what we did here, an actual singing vocal, and then start creating vocal chops like this and then recycle them back into your song, when people hear those chops, it's going to sound a lot more like they belong in the song. It's not just going to sound like these random samples everywhere. The ear is going to recognize, wait, I don't know exactly where I know that sound from, but I know it belongs in this song because the tone is the same, the vocal is the same, so they can kind of hear this familiar stuff. And that's what people really like to listen to, is something it seems like to them they've heard before. So let's listen to this one more time. Now that we got a little something in here. See, I'm kind of liking it. Kept giving me this right here. And I'm kind of liking that as another little motif. So I might maybe do like this and just alternate them like that, kind of a thing. So let's see what that sounds like with our other track. Yeah, I might keep these as separate little sections actually, because I think I could turn this into a whole nother section. So I'm going to show y'all one more little trick, and this is, again, a little bit more of an Ableton specific thing, but because I'm really liking these upbeat, kind of giving it that bounce that I want to get for this type of a track, what we could do is I can turn this audio and I can change the warp mode to beats, and then I can change it to this just forward mode right here. It's called loop forward mode. So it means if I trigger audio, it's only going to play it forward until it's done, and then that's it. And then I can actually shorten the length of these notes. So listen to this. I'll play it regular, and I'll start bringing the notes down and down in length. And let me solo this so it's easier to hear. So this is the type of thing. Now I'm sending it to this lead vocal bus, which has this delay on it right now. So it's kind of jacking it up a little bit in the overall idea, because what I want to do is have more of these like short chop type of things where it's going to be almost another like percussion instrument. I'm going to turn the delay off and check it out now. So that seems like just some kind of weird, kind of way out there type of vibe, right? But when you add that into, let me turn that on with my drums now. And I'm going to solo just this with the drums. And listen to this groove it starts to make. Sorry, I have my assistant here all up in my business. All right, let's listen to this now. So you can see how just like that, I didn't do anything like mind-blowingly difficult today, but this is how you start adding some randomness to your songs. It's going to add a nice little groove to the whole feel of the song. And again, I don't have to use all of this. I could take just this section right here and just loop this part of it. And then, you know, we can start to mangle this stuff even more. But again, this is how you start adding those little pieces of interesting things where it's not just, let me open a sample pack, drag a percussion sample on, or let me, you know, a vocal or whatever. We're actually creating something with our own materials here. And that's what starts to change from beginner producer to more experienced, because your productions is going to be more inclusive of you. And it's going to sound more like you because this is your stuff that you're actually creating. So I just wanted to experiment a little bit today. We did a lot more tedious editing last week. So this week's going to be a little bit more of stuff like this, kind of, you know, showing y'all some tips and tricks, some ideas of different things you can do, especially since a lot of us are working on our own. You want to learn how to introduce some random things like this to, if nothing else, just keep yourself inspired and keep yourself moving when you get stuck, because otherwise it's just kind of looking at the blank page all the time, and that gets difficult. So I hope that was helpful for you guys and girls today. I hope y'all enjoyed spending some time with my man Bruiser here in the studio with us. We're going to be back on Thursday, and I'm going to show y'all some more tips and tricks on things like this that we can do to make this song a lot more fun. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. I'll see y'all next time on